In the entertainment industry, professionals of all disciplines use their skills to create what we know and love. This series explores the minds of the men and women who work in this demanding field. These are their stories.
So excited. We got some interesting stuff to tease the audience with. So I can't wait for that. But can you tell my audience, we'll start with you, CJ, first, your background a little bit, dig a little deeper into who the frequency chemist is. And Chase, can you follow behind that, please?
So, hello world. How y'all doing? So, I go by the frequency chemist. I mean, the name is it's what it is. It's been my brand for quite a while now. It was beautiful. Backstory was given to me on the set of Insecure, in a so many ways. But as he said, I'm a vocalist, producer. I've been doing music since I was 5, and I mean, it's who I am. Music is truly who I am because I couldn't quit if I tried, and I've tried and fail miserably. So at this point, it is now a mental issue.
We're all delusional.
It is just pure delusion. But yeah, music's been, it's what I do. I love it. More so even branching out from music, my curiosity and for music in itself, it got deeper into my curiosity and love for sound in it, for what it is and how it heals the body, and it was just me being a why kid of why do we feel this way when we hear certain songs? Why does this make you dance? Why can't you like why? And when I started to jump down that rabbit hole, that's when I started connecting with, mental health and music, from, my interest in music therapy to just all around how when I create something and putting the intention into the piece of music that I'm creating to make sure that it's getting a message and getting a story out. And that's how the frequency canvas has come about. And it extends to my legacy in my wellness company.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sound has, or music in general has a big influence on the healing process. I know it has for me, and I'm pretty sure it has for other people. Chase?
Man, music is the highest frequency. You already know. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, man. But peace. What's up, world? Thank you, Eddie, for having us. Yeah, man. Chase Flow, born and raised Philadelphia, PA, 215, stand
Go
up.
Birds.
You know what I mean? Go Birds. Yeah, man, I've been doing this. I've been at this music thing for a while. Definitely over a decade of experience. Doing what I does, artist, producer, DJ. Just been blessed to just been able to share my gifts and just abilities in so many different forums. And, now being an educator, in a sense, to just being able to transform or transcend that energy back into, the next generation of creators, entrepreneurs, people like that, man. It's really dope to just see, how far I've come and even how far I'm going. So, I'm very fortunate, to just be at this place and just out here with y'all, man. And I'm looking forward to just going many more places. I've been fortunate to travel the world. You call me the traveling man. So you know what I mean? And I love it, man. Music is definitely something that has, it's so funny. I was telling my students the other day, true story, music was definitely not my dream. It was really not my dream. And it was something that I knew I was good at, but it was just like whatever. My thing was I really just wanted to hoop and I wanted to play basketball. That was my thing. And but music was just something that found me, man. And I just followed that. I followed that intuition. I followed my heart. And then, God just opened up mad doors over the years of just staying consistent. And like CJ said, it was
Hmm.
plenty of times I'm just like, yeah, this ain't it. I'm done. But it just, it's in us. So I just feel like when it's in you, it's like you just kind of got to keep going with the flow and you'll find your way. So, and that's what brought us here today. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Hey, basketball. Now, that song, I wish I was a little bit taller. That applies to
Oh,
me. I was the same way in high school, man. I'm only 5'6", so unless I could jump like Spud Webb or Muggsy Bogues, music has been my profession ever since. So,
that's it,
uh,
man.
education. Now, this is a good segue. I like how you did that unintentionally or intentionally, Chase. Me and Frequency met at Musicians Institute. For those who, excuse me, have been in my audience for the last few years, know that I've taught at Musicians Institute for 13 years, and I met some of the greatest people, both at the faculty and as far as the student body. So many great creators have walked through those doors,
Mm.
Frequency being one of them. So, can you talk about your experience, CJ, at MI?
Yeah, so I started at MI in 2014, which was the year after, because I moved to LA in 2013. Born and raised in Philly, Philly girl all the way, go Birds.
Go
Um,
birds.
moved to LA in 2013. So it was about 2014. It was kind of crazy because you know how when you get to LA, you're in a scene and it's like you got to be in the spaces. I by 2014, I was still very much a tourist, so I spent a lot of time in Hollywood.
Mhm.
Um, and so in doing so, like I would always go past this building, like, what is the Musicians Institute? I thought it was some sort of like union thing or something for musicians or something like that, like a union building or something.
Mhm.
And I don't even remember how I found out it was a school. I know somebody told me. I can't remember who, but somebody told me it was a school or something like that. And that's when I started going in. I looked into it, found out about the open house. I initially, by that time, I wanted to go into school for composition. That's like, I wanted to get my bachelor's for composition. Um, but by that time, like my theory knowledge had gone downward by then. So it's just what it was. I had to like relearn to read music. Like I knew, it wasn't completely foreign to me, but I
Mhm.
definitely had to be reintroduced. And so, for those who know, you kind of gotta like not audition, but you have to in a sense audition or just take a entrance test or something like that. So when I
Yes.
went in and they were asking me to play the notes and everything and I was a little hesitant, that's where they kind of was like, well, instead of coming in for competition of composition, we're going to start you at uh do the keyboard performance. And then they were like, the thing is most of our composition students start as keyboard performance students.
Right.
And piano being my main instrument anyway, as far as like instruments in itself, aside from me being a vocalist, I was like, all right, well, fine, I'll take it. It'll get me started. And then it was just this rapid growth because Musicians Institute, when people would ask me what the school is like, I'm like, if you are someone who wants to be thrust forward, like learning a lot very fast with a rapid, you know,
Yes.
syllabus then it's a school for you. It's a school that you can get jiggy with. Because
Yeah.
if you want to be able to take your time with music, then it ain't gonna be the school. Because I would say within 3 months, I became a working musician again.
3
Like
months.
literally like
Wow.
3 months. That's how fast it took. And then I would spend a lot of time just always, if it was an empty classroom or one of the rehearsal rooms, just in there and just like once my fingers were back in shape, it literally is muscle memory. And it just went all from there. And so, of course, out of one of those classes, I had my doll classes. Reason, my reason teacher. Of course, and I took Reason as well as Pro Tools, so I'm Pro Tools user certified, even though I don't really be using it like that. But
You just had to throw that in there, right?
but I am user certified. You can look at me up on Avid. But so I met Eddie as my Reason teacher, and he was just the coolest teacher in the world. He was always just cool with how he teached. And Reason was one of the dolls that I enjoyed working with at the time. So yeah.
Man, I wish I had you, man. Reason was actually my first dog. Reason and Acid Pro.
You know what the craziest part about that whole experience of actually creating a curriculum for Reason? We had some turnover with our studio managers, Monica Mencias, who I love that woman. She embraced me when I was a student and gave me the opportunity to be an instructor. And I am forever in her debt for that. She gave me the opportunity to do that. And, it took off ever since. And with that being said, when Jonathan Newkirk, who's the current chair at MI for audio engineering, came on board and saw some of the work that I was doing and the attention I was gravitating towards students and what I was teaching them, he was like, well, Ed, why don't you develop a Reason class? And I was like, that just sounds like a good idea. So I spent literally 6 months to a year creating the curriculum for that class, inside and out, going through the manual. The manual is ridiculous. I never want to read that manual again. I thought Pro Tools was bad. And it just kind of took its own kind of shape and form. And, students were getting excited to learn this program, like how simplicity, and you can create really good compositions. Like I was doing scores using Reason, and still to this day use it for a lot of my production. So to develop a class like that and to have students like CJ come in and really enjoy learning what I had to teach, it's really a pleasure, man. That's the one thing I get about teaching, and I'm pretty sure you get the same thing, don't you, Chase?
Man, it's something like and it's so funny. I graduated from Lawrence around the corner. For those that don't know, Los Angeles Recording
yeah, right.
So
You told me that.
I moved to LA about 4 years before 2010. And then I went to the Los Angeles Recording School around the corner, did the 18-month accelerated program. And yeah, man, it's, similar thing. Was just went out there to, take my knowledge to the next level. And from being a student and then, getting into that thing, and a lot of my instructors who I connected with, still to this day, some of the people I talk to, and, just always learning and picking their brain. And then now them seeing me be an instructor and teaching, people like that, it's just so funny. And then, some of my students back home in Philly and out in Chicago, man, it's like just seeing like, the knowledge that they retain from it. It's just like, dang, like, wow, this is just something. But it's a joy, man. It's a joy, especially when you kind of see like those ones who really, really get excited and they just like, oh man, then they just like kind of freak out and just be like upset. So that's the joy for me, is to be able to give people, because I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling of when I first learned how to use Reason, no cap. And I literally obsessed on that thing for at least like 3-4 days straight. Like I probably took like little cat naps, like with my laptop in my chest, and was like, all right, cool, I'm just back up on, because it was just, man. And that's when I really felt like, man, this connection to music is real. And I just loved it, man. And ever since, I love the creative process. So I love to see that energy reciprocate into the students.
Okay. Did that have a lot to do as far as learning how to produce in Reason? And is that one of the things that inspired you to become a DJ?
You know what? It's funny. So, true story, what actually got me into the whole world of being a DJ I'll make this like the fast version. So 2017, I was in the Philippines with my cousin, and shout out to my cousin Q and my guy DJ Paulie Mac. Paulie Mac is a very well known MC out there and DJ in the Philippines, and he ran this club out there called High Society, and he had me on his radio show out there. And when we kept doing the interview, when we kept going, like going to commercial, he was like, "We got DJ Chase Flow in the studio." You know what I mean? It was just like it just sounded cool, and I'm just thinking to myself like, every time we cut, I'm like, "Bro, like, why you keep calling me that?" Like first two times, I'm thinking like, "All right, whatever." Like maybe he might have just slipped up, and I'm like, "Why you keep saying that?" I'm like, "I'm not a DJ, dude." And he was like, "I'm a rapper." He's like, "No, I'll just run with it because." He's like a lot of people, with like they respect DJs and they love DJs more. And it's like if you're not like they don't really care for producers like how they do in America. And if you're not really like a famous rapper, like they won't know you. So, but if you put DJ, like people are like they go like run up on you, like, oh my God. And so lo and behold, at the end of the interview, he did it, and then I just ran with it, whatever. We got to a showcase at the club that night. I promise you, it was like 6 chicks that came up to the VIP section where I was. It was like, who's the DJ guy from Paulie Mac show? DJ J Fox. I was like, me? So he's like, I told you, man.
Awesome
And I,
Players Club type stuff,
I was like,
right?
oh snap. So I was like, man, I was like, damn. But you know what though? It was funny because I no, but what really got me though, man, was just I always had the ear for like music and I just always appreciated the art of how DJs command the room and really control the vibes. And I
Yeah.
just know for me as being an artist and being a producer and even engineer, it's like, all right, cool. You know what? Taking all that stuff and then now putting it into a space where you're controlling the environment and and it was just like for me I always like to like and that's actually what helped me as a producer like take my sound to the because I will always put my records up to stuff that people like and then that's when I was like you know what I can hear that and before Serato came out with Stems man shout out to Serato I would always do mashups and I just love like just taking different elements from tracks and mashing them up together. And that's actually what got my ear to produce records and arrange my beats. And
Mhm.
that's what really got me into a DJ. But I didn't realize what I was doing, that I was actually teaching myself how to DJ and make blends. And I was doing that. Like I would take acapellas from different songs and put them over my beats. And one of my first projects, I produced it solely in Reason and Acid Pro, and it was called "We Invented This Remix." And I just took like a bunch of different beats that me and my partner, production partner at the time made, and that was like our whole like thing of just like, yo, we was really on the tip of becoming DJs, and we didn't realize it. So
It's crazy that you say that was one of the beginning things. So the producer thing for me, producing was the last thing I ever thought I'd be doing in music, like the
Right.
last thing. But it was my experimental mindset as an artist.
Hmm.
It was the fact that it was what I was having in my head for my songs. It was hard to explain it. And if I did find like, if I found a producer that could get it right, or I would meet a producer that just couldn't get it quite right, or they couldn't really understand, what I was trying to convey.
Hmm.
So it was going to MI and really brushing up on my keyboard playing. Like I would play with beats ahead of time, like, but more so just sampling sounds.
Hmm.
And then after I started playing learning at MI and everything, that's when it was like, wait, now that I'm better on the keys, maybe I can fully start putting some sounds together.
Hmm.
Now, fast forward to 2018, that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. One, I'm also going to release my name, The Frequency Chemist. This is my first time putting because it's trademarked now. It still wasn't trademarked at the time, but I was like, all right, it's time to start sharing that name. And then I did it. I released it for my birthday. I launched my website with
Hmm.
the Frequency Chemist brand, and I also released a mixtape called The Experiment, and it's still on my website to this day, intothefrequency.com. And on it, I took a bunch of my beats and I took acapellas and I put them on the beat. Like I have a song called Luck of the Irish where I'm sampling with this like the Irish kind of chanting sound,
Hmm.
but it's like a collaboration of Jay-Z, Rakim, and Kendrick.
Wow. Wow.
And it's still on the website, so y'all can go in there and hear it.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
did that. That was like, and then there's a song with like Rihanna, and then the song. So these are like my whole intention was let me put artists that I want to work with. Shout out to Kendrick. Hit me up, Kendrick. Let me put artists that I want to work with onto my beats and just because this is it. This is the experiment. This is me now announcing myself as a producer. So I feel like that that was the
Yeah,
way to start
right.
and go about it.
One of the reasons why I wanted to interview you two is because for those who don't know, uh, by the time this episode comes out, the song would have been released. We have collaborated on a project uh, for a song called Hidden Where It Hurts, produced by The Frequency Chemist and Chase Flow. And wow, I still gotta wrap my head around it. Co-produced by me? Huh? What? Anyway, can y'all talk about, first of all, how y'all two got together to collaborate on the project, and then how the process of bringing me in kind of took this whole concept of using this song for now, it will be multiple outlets and platforms.
I'll let the lady go first.
Well, by last year, me and Chase have like what we met in 2021, 22,
Yeah,
something like
about
that, give or
21,
take. I had
22.
just got back because for people that know, I went home to have my daughter I had her in the height of COVID. And
Ouch.
then I was stuck at home with a newborn but when 2021 hit, that's when it hit me like, okay, I gotta go back home to Cali. So got back home in 2021. So it was around that time that I met Chase through somebody else, and then me and Chase just clicked. First of all, it was like it's funny because the person that I had a meeting with, he was like, "Yo, somebody that's from your hometown that's about to pull up," and so me and Chase just clicked instantly, and the friendship just went from there. Now fast forward another like couple years, just keeping in touch, and we just started sharing like ideas of music and stuff like that because it's like, hey, we're both on the grind. We got to do something. So I had a song that I had pretty well, it wasn't a song that I produced, but it was a beat that I started
Mhm.
maybe back in that was 2021 when I did the beat. I updated it a little bit maybe in 2022, but it just sat collecting dust. So amongst all the things that I was sending to Chase, I'm like, well, here's one that I've been working on. It's been sitting collecting dust, but that one caught him. And
Mhm.
so he took it and he added that Chase Flow flavor. Okay. And we created like the lyrics, all the things, like that's all Chase. Like he killed it. And then from there, when we got the concept of the song in its raw form, unmixed, we were trying to put bugs in people's ear. And it's just like somebody help us because this is a good song. And then Chase hit me and was like, yo, do you got somebody that can mix this joint, whatever? And I had just saw you, Eddie, because you was just in LA. And I was
Mhm.
like, all right, I think I got the perfect person. Let me go ahead, shoot it over to Eddie. And magic began. That's my
Cool.
version of the story.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nothing much to say. So, just my end, like I said, I got the music. It was actually last year. It was around December, I want to say. I was out there in Cali, and yeah, I got the music, and I was just in a space like earlier this year, and I was just hearing and just I was just in my bag, and I was just in a really, really good, high creative space, and it was around my birthday. I'll never forget it. And I was just sitting there and I was just banging out tracks. And that particular concept, what it was something that I started out on my end. And then I heard CJ with She Sent Me, and I'm just thinking, yeah. And where the concept came to me at was Hit 'em Where It Hurts. I think it was the news or something like that. It was somewhere. And I was in Philly around the time when we went to the last Super Bowl, and they were the Eagles, and Go Birds. They was just like they were just like they was like, yo, the Eagles need like a new theme song. And it was
Hmm.
just like, they were like, I think it was like a contest or something like that. I think one of the news stations had a contest. And I don't know why, just like this concept hit them where it hurts over like a Jersey club.
Hurt, hit him where it hurts. 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 Hurt.
I just had that
Yeah.
stuck in my head. So like literally I just had like the Jersey Club drums, the kick, and then I just had that hook. Hurt, hit him where it hurts. And so I just had that. And then eventually when I heard her music, I put them two together and then it just started coming to me. And I was like, yo, what if I just wrote like a real anthemic type of like a theme that just was like for sports or just something big? And I had this idea for a band, and I was just like years ago, I was like, I want to really make like a stadium band, but like with elements of like a Linkin Park, with electric light orchestra and just with elements of hip hop in it.
Right.
And I that's where it just came to me. And I was like, you know what? And then I was just in this really high frequency with just creative wise. And then the lyrics just kind of came to me. And then I was just, in my bag. And then eventually I just got it. And then I was like, you know what? Yeah. And then I just took what CJ gave me and just started arranging it. And then boom, it just came to me, man. And I put together a arrangement and then I would send it back to her. And she was like, yo, me and my daughter flipped the fuck out. Like,
You was in the car
what
turning.
is wrong with you, James? And because I was just so hyped when I was in the moment making it, because I just envisioned, I was just listening. And what it was, I was listening to a lot of Kanye and like YouTube and like just different bands, like just trying to get inspired. Because when I make music, I think about just being at an environment. And one of my favorite producers, Just Blaze, I watched the interview where he was saying like one thing in his perspective when he makes his drums, why his drums sound so crazy, he thinks like a drummer on the stage from just the different angles, and that's why his
Right.
records sound so big. So I just started thinking to myself like the lights, the whole, and I went to the Glow in the Dark show, the Kanye show, and I just remember that experience of just how the lights was, and it was just so crazy. And I was just putting myself in that environment of just like I could see a band doing this like on a late night show. It's a big crowd, like somewhere like at the the Jimmy Kimmel show out there in LA. You know how when the
Right.
bands be on the stage in the back
Yeah.
of the in the whole and I was just
Yeah.
thinking
I've been
about
to one
something
of
like
those
that.
shows.
And so, yeah, man, I was just like really like visualizing myself. And that's where the whole concept of just like when I put it together, and I just love EDM music, man. And so when I just kind of put all that together, it just came like it came to me like that. And I just always challenge myself when I create music to just do something that just like wows me out. Like, I can't believe I did that. Like, so then I feel like with the rest of the world is going to get that feeling. And so I feel like, yeah, man, like just the reception of, that record was, I mean, obviously y'all felt it, you know what I'm saying? And just, the people that you've connected it to felt it. So, I mean, and I mean, we can see now,
It's
it's
an
like,
undeniable
it's
energy.
an undeniable
Yeah.
energy. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so the rest of the world is going to feel it. And so I'm just speaking that into existence now because
Yeah.
I know that record is going to do the same thing that it did to us. So I'm grateful, man, to just have shared that space and been able to do this collab with CJ amongst many more too with you too, good brother. And
Yeah, I
yeah, man.
appreciate it. I appreciate you
Yeah.
guys bringing me in. Real quick, I only got a couple more minutes. So I'm going to give y'all some quick hitter questions, right? Cheesesteak, since both of y'all from Philly. And
Oh
if
man.
I were to go to Philly, uh, what's a good place to get some cheesesteak real quick?
I'm gonna tell you where not to go. Okay. Don't go. Don't go to Pets. Don't go to Geno's. That's where we send the tourists because you don't have nobody to take you to the hood where the real spots is.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Poppy
I, I,
store,
I, I appreciate
Chubby's.
the hood.
Yeah. Chubby's, Pats, yeah, no, don't, like I
Don't
said,
go.
don't set yourself up. But yeah, Pats I'm not Pats, damn, see, I'm on Chubby's. D'Alessandro's is cool. I like Jim's,
It's
you know what I'm saying?
Skibbables. if we're trying to keep
Ishka
it
Bibbles, yeah, if you
safer,
want,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Ishka Bibbles, if you want the South Side, you know, you want to go keep it down. They got the best chicken cheesesteaks, though. I will say that Ishka Bibbles.
Yeah,
Okay.
fire. But
Yeah,
in real life, you gotta go to your local poppy store.
you gotta go to the
That's
poppy.
what you gotta go to the poppy store. For those who don't know what a poppy, because I've said that and people are like, well, what are you talking about? It's what it is. It's a poppy store.
It's the
We
poppy
got the
store,
Puerto Ricans. We call them pot. They're like, yo, pot, let me get, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
puppy.
aka the bodega for the
Right. And
lack
for
of
people
better
of New
term.
York, they call it bodega. We call it the puppy store.
Right. New York.
If music wasn't an option, I know this is going to be a hard question, and if y'all can answer it in 30 seconds each. If music wasn't an option, what would be your profession?
Therapy of some sort. I'd be a therapist, full blown, either or entertainment lawyer or somewhere in the medical field or something. Astrologist, science, something like that. Because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, man, I would definitely be a coach at a game of basketball or working in like athletics or something like that, sports medicine.
That's crazy because I was a referee for 2 years. I got a chance to meet Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino. Got a chance to work at Fox. It was crazy, man.
That's
It was
crazy.
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 Last minute for each, or 45 seconds. Let people know where they can find you and what y'all got in store next, just real quick.
Real quick from me, into the frequency.com. That's where you can find everything. Frequencymedicinals.com. That's my wellness, my legacy. Find me on IG at the Frequency Chemist. Everything's the Frequency Chemist. You can Google the Frequency Chemist. I'm gonna come up. If it's somebody else, let me know. It's a cease and desist. Right now, me and Eddie as well, we're working on shout out to 100. He is a Nigerian Afro tradition artist out of Nigeria. He is the very first project that I'm producing like full. So I'm very excited for y'all to hear that.
Oh
Chase?
man, yeah. So Chase Flow International, all socials. Man, it's a lot I got going on right now. I'm just in the space focusing on just building with my crew and with this program, man. We're working with these youth, but I will say though, the CWMMP, Chase What Matters Music Program is the name of the program, and the CWMMP.org is the website where you can check that out. But right now, man, like I said, I got a few projects. Like I said, we got this Hit 'em Where It Hurts. We got shout out to my guy Ricky Kedge. We actually got two projects I just executive produced on his album Gandhi. So we're actually going out and campaigning that for the Grammy for next year. So we got a couple listening parties. So stay tuned for that because we definitely moving around the US doing that. And then so we got that Human Nature with him and my girl Sylvie.
Sylvan!
Yeah, I'm saying we moving and grooving. Diaries of a Traveling Man. It's a project that yours truly I'm putting together. Just all the hitters. So like I said, you got myself, you got CJ on there, Eddie. You know what I'm saying, and just all these different artists that I've collected from all of my travels, and I've been to 30 countries so far. Plan on hitting the rest of as many more as I can, and but through my travels, I've been able to meet some really great artists. So, yeah, Diaries of a Traveling Man coming soon. I'm just dropping singles right now. And we moving and grooving. We making it happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Dana Brown and Mr. Mark Goldstein. How are y'all doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
If that soliloquy didn't explain how like my brain and my body are not functioning as one right now, you get the gist of it.
Oh, no problem. Just let me explain a little bit about myself. So I am an entertainment attorney, and I've been practicing for over 25 years, as you stated. I'm actually from Illinois, formerly known as Dana M. Thomas. A lot of my clients will know me as Thomas, but Dana Brown. And I'm currently in between. So I'm in between Chicago. I'm in between Chicago a lot, or Illinois, LA, and Vegas. And so I just wanted to say that. So entertainment attorney as well as a business strategist, and which brings me to how I met with Mark.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Can you give my audience a little bit of background about yourself, sir, and just a little bit more detail?
Sure. I've been a musician and songwriter since being in high school. I got into the business end of it when I was in college, and took on the role of entertainment industry consultant because every project I was in, there was always some issues and someone needed to handle it. And I wound up being the person. So I just naturally transcended into doing that on a regular basis in addition to my other activities. So that's where I am right now. And I've been doing that for quite a long time. You saw my LinkedIn resume. I just want to correct one thing. When you see Charles Wallet's name, Dionne Warwick was one of his clients. These are people I associated with through Charles Wallet, not directly, except for one or two projects. George Benson also had the privilege of meeting him at an event in New Jersey a while ago, and also assisting Charles Wallet with one of George Benson's singles. So I get into a lot of different things.
Okay.
I like helping people. I don't necessarily get paid for everything I do. Unfortunately.
The story of my life.
Right? So join with me then.
Can either one of you elaborate on like the kind of the nuances of copyright law? You don't have to get into specifics, but for those who are not abreast of how copyright laws apply specifically to music, can you touch a little bit on that?
Yes, people have misconception. A lot of new artists, they think they can mail their property to themselves, like a recording or I guess the lead sheet. But that doesn't really work because, first of all, you can't sue for copyright infringement unless you have a federal copyright. So you're wasting your time with that. You have a copyright from day of conception, but you want to legally prove it, you get a federal copyright. So it's very important for that reason. And also, unfortunately, the copyrights have expiration, which has been increased over the years from the original Copyright Act in 1790, with 14 years for limited items like charts, books, and maps, to what we have now covering music, film, architectural drawings, photographs. And since that document was written in 1790, it's really kind of antiquated when you look at the scheme of things right now. But all they've done over the years is extend it because of pressure from the creative community. But really, it needs to be perpetuity because you're giving up viable monetary gain and valuable assets under the copyright law when it expires.
Fair point. So what are the current laws or the current statutes that applies to copyrights when it comes to music?
Well, it applies to everything. In the copyright law, if you're in the original law, I guess, owner or creator, it's 70 years past your life, you have additional coverage. Now, there's other terms for whether it's a third-party ownership, like a work for hire, and if it was created before, I believe, 1976. There's a couple of different things, but the basic idea, it all expires and it isn't fair. Based on how valuable they are now, that's the problem.
Dana, would you kind of elaborate how maybe an attorney gets involved, let's say for an artist who might have had a copyright infringement issue? Would they bring somebody like you on board to, say, for instance, possibly pursue a lawsuit against the offending party?
Right. If you find that there's been a copyright infringement, I just want to elaborate on some of the previous questions that you just asked.
Sure, please.
I want to go into like just a little historical copyright timeline. In 1787, the Constitution actually, Article 1, Section 8, it actually gives Congress the power to promote the progress of science and useful arts through copyright and patent laws. So then 1790, where Marx started off at, it was the first Copyright Act. and it covered maps, charts, and books, as he stated. And that protection lasted for 14 years, and it was renewable for another 14 years. So, but there was no central copyright office yet, and registrations were basically recorded in the local courts. So then in 1897, there was the creation of the Copyright Office. So Congress actually establishes the U.S. Copyright Office within the Library of Congress. So the purpose of that office is to centralize registration, what Mark stated before, because once an idea gets into a medium form, it's protected. However, the enforcement of it, you really can't enforce it unless it's registered. So as soon as you put it on some type of medium, you write it, you write your song, you write your book, take that photograph, it's basically copyright. It's protected, but it's the enforcement part that we're talking about that gives you, that's why it's important to register with the Copyright Office, Library of Congress, okay? And so that office was established in 1897. And so the purpose was to centralize the registration, and it was for the record keeping and preservation of those works. So then Mark also mentioned the 1976, which is the Modern Copyright Act. It was a major overhaul of the U.S. copyright law. So it expanded the protections to virtually all original works of authorship. Okay, and so that term extended life to the author at that time. If it was the life of the author plus 50 years, it was later amended to 70 years, the life of the author plus 70 years. Now, when it comes to works for hire and when it comes to corporations, it's 95 years. So 95 to 120 years. So, and then also it was that act, the 1976 Act, that established the fair use as law. Now, a lot of people like to say, oh, I could just take 10 minutes of that song, or blah, 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 whatever. All of these are myths. Just like Mark also said, oh, let me do the poor man's registration and all of that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was a victim of that when I first started.
Right. And so I'm just giving some basic overview, not legal advice, some basic overview, right? And so then we had in 1998, there was a Digital Millennium Copyright Act because, things started to go digital at that time. So then we had the DMCA, is what we call it, which updated the copyright for the internet era. And so it also introduced, a lot of people may experience these takedown rules and platform safe harbors. And so now in the 2020s, we're dealing with AI and the new challenges when it comes to the copyright. So, courts and lawmakers are wrestling with AI generated creative work now, because as you may or may not know, if it's totally AI generated, you can't copyright it. So copyrights are only for human creativity, human creation. So, that's what's currently the courts are dealing with now. And then, the Copyright Office continues to update the guidance on the AI assisted works. So, at the beginning, copyright law has always been the same. It's always been the same principle, which to protect the creativity so culture can flourish, or of the human creativity. So we're going to put it that way. So where do I come in as an attorney? Okay, say you did all those steps, you registered, you created, you registered your works, did all of that, and then you find that someone infringed on your work, right? So, you want to send a cease and desist, or you want to try to settle. But that's the whole purpose of registering your works. Because if somebody does infringe, now the courts have teeth where you can go into court and, and assert your claims. So
yes, and I think it was very thorough. And the most important part is the protection will be enforced once you register your copyright. It cannot be forced until you follow that step. And I think a lot of either novice or up and coming creators, they kind of skip that step and it costs them in the long run. So I think it was very thorough that both of you guys gave that particular instance of registering your copyrights, which brings me to what you two are involved with, which is the creators' rights movement. Can y'all elaborate on that, please?
Sure. The goal of creators' rights movement is to advise and change laws to be able to help creators maintain their rights in all aspects of the creation. Meaning, now we're talking about the expiration of copyright, but there's other issues. AI invasion of copyrighted works based on what President Trump is allowing, and also the fact that creators aren't making money, at least in the music industry, on their creation because of the streaming rates. Going from an era of selling physical copies and getting paid from the label, 15 to 20 points on an album, going to the next level of doing downloads, where iTunes sells them typically for $1 and remunerates the creator or the label with 70 cents on the dollar, 70%, to an era now where we're talking about streaming with $3,000 to $5,000 per million streams. So you really can't make money at that level. So something has to be done. There's talk in Congress about going to a penny a stream or splitting this fees that they charge for membership at the streaming companies between the creators and the streaming company, half and half. But it hasn't moved to the point where it's reality. So that is going to be another issue we're going to take up after we go through the expiration of copyright and try to move that forward.
Okay. Dana, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. So, just like, and it's also about preserving legacy and creating generational wealth because, you can leave, you can transfer your business, you can transfer a home, but you can't transfer that wealth and create generational wealth from creative works. And, that's one of the things of why it should be perpetual. Like your creativity, it should be on the same level as any other asset. It's an asset.
Yes.
And so, when you're creating something, you're contributing to the culture, first of all. And that's something that you can't even pass down, creating generational wealth. So that's why it should be considered that's what we take up the fight of perpetual copyright. Like if you're creating something, you should be compensated for it forever. And so that's one of, like I said, your creativity, it not only adds to the culture, but it's something that you should be able to pass down for generations and generations and generations and keep, collecting from it. So I'm the type of person that go after. I'm very passionate about the things I believe in, and this is something that I totally believe in. So when I met Mark, we met through the label. I came in as their business strategist, and I immediately that clause right there, something I became passionate about. Because when I'm passionate about something, I'm really passionate about it. And this is, like I said, protection. As an attorney, that's my whole thing. I'm here to protect your rights, but I'm also about teaching and helping people empower themselves. I'm an empowerment coach as well. So, this is, like I said, your asset. You should be able to protect it. You should be able to empower your create generational wealth from it. And it's, like I said, it's just something I'm passionate about. And this is something when Mark is very passionate about this. And so I supported the cause from day one. And so that's basically how I got involved. And that's about it. Like I said, it's something I'm passionate about.
Well,
protection and education
And,
and empowerment.
and I think if more people would be passionate about it, a lot of the issues with copyrights wouldn't be issues anymore. $1.5 trillion of global copyright industries annually. That's insane. And that goes into a lot of that money is not being recouped by the creators because they don't have a true understanding of copyright law.
No, they don't. And if you go to the website, you can get some knowledge, basic knowledge, because people need to know, we're creating every day. So, learn how to protect that intellectual property, And like I said, that's an asset that can be passed down for generations and generations. And we feel, and I feel, and the movement is that, the creator's right is about one thing, just making sure that the people who create the art, the music, and the stories that shape our culture actually benefit from their work. And it's about closing the gap between talent and control. So creators don't lose their rights in fine print or in unfair deals. Like, honestly, yeah, which goes back to what I said. Like, you own it from the minute you create it, but in order for it to be enforced, you have to register it, and then a lot of times but that right can be waived. People, read those contracts. Read the contracts. I always
The
say,
very fine print.
and that's what I found with a lot of people. They didn't read the contracts and they basically gave it away. And so, or there's works for hire. They got paid a little bit of something and they gave it away. That's your wealth. So man, I always tell people the greatest asset you have is your mind. And so in this space, the greatest asset that you have is your creativity. So protect it at all costs. So that's what I would lead with.
So the creator rights movement or the creators rights movement has a petition. Can y'all talk a little bit about the petition and how creators such as myself, I've already signed the petition. How can they put their stamp on changing the copyright laws that are currently going on in the country?
Well, if they want to really do something to change the copyright law and they understand what's necessary, they can sign the petition. I set a platform up, put this together for 2 years, and you see people like Dana coming in to support it to be able to help these creators. But the first step is to get the government to notice that there's enough people who want change, so they'll address it. So if everybody really wants to do something, they should at least sign that petition. We could move forward and go to the next level. Now, as we were talking before, Dana was bringing up the point about generational wealth. Now, I'd like to pose a scenario about that. Let's say you have a major artist who had done very well through his lifetime, and he bequeaths his estate, including the copyright to major hit records. And the family, and under a company name, maybe formed a publishing company. Mm-hmm. So the heirs are operating that company, and they pass it down. Then all of a sudden, 70 years later, it's terminated. The company goes bankrupt because they have no more copyrights. So you're really robbing people of business. It's not just a copyright. It's down the road of what they could do with these things. Publishing is a big business. There was no publishing in 1790. This is why I got involved with all this. I saw this, I investigated this about 2 years ago when I saw something on the internet about the Beatles losing the sound recording copyright in the UK to Love Me Do. And I was thinking, how could that happen? And what are we doing here? And I saw some other issues with the music from the 50s in the United States. So I read the Bill of Rights, I read the Declaration of Independence, I went to the Constitution, and I feel there's conflicts between that because the government is supposed to protect the citizens' rights. Now they're saying that you don't have rights to your copyright. That is absolute nonsense. They want to use copyright and give them away after the life of the author because they believe that people could build on them and create more. So they're saying that people are too stupid on their own to come up with something unless they steal it from somebody else. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
I don't think it makes well, it should make sense to anybody, but obviously it's more about the money than about people's rights. And
That's
I
right.
don't I don't think that's a I don't think that's a fair shake of the hand there. So can you tell us more about where people can join the petition?
The petition calls for the copyright law to be changed constitutionally, to create an environment where it's perpetuity copyright, the creators have the right to keep their copyrights. That's what we're going for. That will take a constitutional amendment with ratification by the states. That's a process. But in the interim, if they want to amend the copyright again and extend it like they did in 1998 under the Sonny Bono Act, we can go maybe add another 50 years to give time to get that constitutional amendment in place, hopefully within the next few years, get that passed. But you have to do something for these people because 70 years past the life of the author is not enough anymore based on the value of these copyrights and the fact that you're looking at music from the 50s and 60s and it's still selling well.
Wow. I really appreciate both you and Dana for kind of bridging the gap between what is the creator's right and what is the creator's right in order to earn that generational wealth that, let's be honest, one of the reasons that I am involved in music for 20 plus years is so I can pass this on to my daughter and the future generations. And the future generations, one of the reasons I became a teacher. And I really do feel like a lot of people are taking this out of our hands and we're just letting them because we're not educated enough about certain aspects of our rights as far as creators. So I really appreciate you both standing up for our rights. And I really do hope that some members of my audience who are creators go ahead and sign the petition and get involved with protecting yourself, because that's what it's all about. Contributing editor for Mix Magazine.
Who you talking about? Who you talking about?
I just keep rambling on. I think I might have to stop now because we're getting too deep into this interview. That's Mr. Barry Rudolph, everybody. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. I'm just glad to have you here, especially with your expertise in a lot of this stuff that you do. So I can't wait. So how you been, considering what happened?
Yeah, COVID and all that. Well, the thing is, people that work at home, my studio is here at my place. Though it seems like I'm understanding that people that already were working home during COVID is pretty much the same, more or less. But I'm fine through the COVID thing. I'm pretty much here all the time, working, mixing, writing. I've been working on the studio lately. You can't see what I'm doing with this camera angle, but this is to improve the sound quality of trying to get the bass a little flatter. It's a lot better than it was already, and I have some other ideas. So I've been doing that, mixing a couple of remixes,
Nice.
writing some great gear for mix, a lot of cool stuff for them, and software and Music Connection I write for them. And just, I got solar power now. My studio is solar powered, and pretty great to know that this summer I'll be able to have all of this gear on and the air conditioner if it gets really hot. And I'm not going to say it's free, nothing's free, but
Right.
at least it's not going to be, I'm not going to get these horrific DWP bills. Anyway, so I'm pretty happy about having that. It took a long time, but I finally got the solar rig hooked up, and I'm just kind of improve the property around here. Work in the backyard, I got landscape because I'm getting ready for the party, summer party here.
Ah, really?
We'll see. I mean, if the COVID thing lifts or whatever, however that rolls out, can't really know. But maybe we'll have. I used to have them when I taught at MI. I had a couple of summer parties.
Yeah, I remember.
And a lot of students would show up, and of course, this is not supposed to be allowed, but they would. It was fun. They would come in here, and those kids would just Google it. They would just look at the studio, go, "Oh my God!" And I have it hooked up so you can play a mix and hear it in here, and it also goes out to the patio.
Nice.
So you can. Anyway, it's fun.
We'll get into your little setup right there. First of all,
that's just part of the outboard rack.
Yeah, but I think a lot of my audience, I don't think really has a grasp of how deep into acoustics and sound, studio design you are. So just real quick, can you give them a rundown of how long you've been in the business and some of the crazy stuff that you do?
Well, like so many things in life, I got into the music business kind of by accident. I went to college, and while in college, I worked my way through college, paid for it. I worked nights at aerospace firms. Was born and grew up in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And so at night, I would work 40 hours a week at night at aerospace as a digital test tech. First, I was a wiring technician, they call it, which is essentially wiring racks for computer stuff and everything. Then I had been going to engineering school at college and stepped up to become a test technician, where I'm testing the little circuit boards that go into a bigger system. And I'm doing that the whole time. And I graduated, and lo and behold, when I graduated from college, the place I happened to be working at, which was a little mini computer company, they laid me off for unknown reasons. So I didn't really understand. So I went to you can go to arbitration, and and the employment guy said, why did you fire or lay off Mr. Rudolph? Did he, was he doing anything, did he steal stuff or didn't do his job or anything, or was late all the time, whatever? Why? And they said, no, he was all good for that. And they said, well, why'd you fire him? And he said, well, we didn't think he liked his work. And the guy looked, my supervisor was there, ex-supervisor. Anyway, so after that happened, I'm kind of walking around, kind of wondering what to do. And that was, let's say, what year was that? It was about 1969. And I wandered into a recording studio in Santa Ana. It was a place called United Audio. It's not there anymore. And I started working. I walked in there and I go, wow, electronics, music. I was in a rock band in high school, a drummer. And this is pretty cool. I mean, here if I can get a job here, I can be around music all the time and the electronics, and you had whatever the state of the art equipment more or less was back then. So anyway, I worked there and eventually got it to be a first engineer, which a lot of students wanted to know that, what was the first time you are flying the plane? In other words, you're at the board, it's on you to get the sound, everything is on you because you're now the first engineer. You don't have, And I said, well, it happened on a big movie date. The owner used to engineer all the sessions. He was like a jazz drummer, and but he had one issue, had a drinking problem. And I always tell this story, people can't believe it, but there was a little bathroom right next to the door to the control room. And he in that bathroom, he kept a refrigerator, and you open the door and it's full of beer. I mean, like many bottles or cans of beer that you could fit anyway, he would drink, he'd tell the client that he had a urinary issue, that he had to leave the room to pee about every 10, 15 minutes. He had pee. And, he'd go in there, and while he's peeing out the last one, he'd drinking another one at the same time. So you can get that vision. Anyway.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the thing is, he could hold it. He could start it. This particular day, he started at 8 or 9 in the morning.
Oh my. Ouch.
And we're going straight through to dinner. I mean, this is a lot of musicians coming in, and he was good. I mean, he was getting, a couple of breath mints and back in there, and he was fine until about 6 o'clock or so. The client says, "Let's go out to dinner. We're really hungry. You want to go out? We'll take you out to dinner." They said to everybody, and of course, he said, "I'll be right there. I got to make another." He went to do his thing, but this time he didn't come back. And they're waiting for him. Where is he? And I went looking for him, and he was passed out in another room. And I said, "Come on, man, we're going to dinner." I can't. And so we went to dinner, and I think the client kind of knew what was going on, but they were getting the work done, so they didn't. And so I came back from dinner, and I finished the session. Nobody else, no helpers, sat down and mixed it, and I got their mixes and tapes. I think I got out of there about 11 o'clock that night. And next day, the owner says, "Okay, you're doing all the sessions."
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. So anyway, yeah. So Orange County, and then I heard about that. Obviously, was not going to be a forever gig with that guy. Then it started getting into money issues and things like that. So I had heard about a new studio opening, a place called Larrabee, changed hands in West Hollywood. The original Larrabee, which was owned by Jerry Goffin, and I heard that he had sold it to a producer, had a lot of big hit records, and he bought it. And I started there, I think, for $50 a week in West Hollywood. And I was driving up from Orange County to West Hollywood every day. And finally, I got an apartment on the next street over anyway, so I could walk. And that's really started at Larrabee. So changed hands in 69, I believe, and 70. And I worked at the second. The way you start in the real world is you start at some lowly job, like cleaning the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say, "Oh, you're pretty good at that, you want to start moving microphones," and you learn about that. And then they had a disc cutter, a mono, had a Neumann disc cutter. In those days, the publishing houses, when they wanted to pitch a song for whatever use, they would have an acetate cut. So for those that don't know, an acetate is it's an aluminum disc that's covered in acetate, is vinyl, whatever. Not vinyl, it's a plastic. Mm-hmm. And you use a lathe and you cut it, and it's a temporary thing. You can only play it a few times, and then it kind of wears out. But anyway, so when you think about it, so they're pitching the song somebody wrote, one of their songwriters, and they would send out these acetates to possible artists or producers or looking for these tunes. And when you look at it, you go, "Oh, okay, it's a record." And kind of in your brain, you put it on your turntable like you would any record, and it's playing music. So this is a mono. The demos were all mono, and it was a mono disc cutting head made by Neumann. And I think I had a Pultec EQ and maybe a mono, like a Fairchild 660.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much you'd get it, they'd phone in an order in the morning, like ordering a pizza or something. And they said, "We need 6 of that song and 7 of that one," and all that. And they had the library was upstairs at Larrabee, and I would go up there, get the tapes and fill the order. So you're kind of working by yourself. You kind of figure out, well, that doesn't work. If you spoil enough acetates, in other words, they're not cheap, but
right,
you spoil enough of them, it's going to So after spoiling a few of them, trying to, you try all kinds of wacky stuff, trying to get it loud or, and with disc cutting, you're limited. You're limited to it's a mechanical process. You can't push it very much. And but you did learn what the compressor did. You learned what the EQ did. You tried all this wacky stuff. So in a way, you were kind of learning what these things do. So after about cutting about 1 million of those discs, they figure that, okay, you can be around clients now. In other words, you're not gonna do something in front of clients. And in those days, it was all big union sessions with, the Wrecking Crew, those guys, and lots of other musicians. So you were assisting or setting up. That's what I did in the beginning, is you worked with another assistant and set up the room. So most of the dates were kind of a lot of microphones, a lot of stuff to set up, because usually it was typical tracking date in those days would be drums, bass, grand piano, and you might have to set up a Hammond organ or a Vox Continental organ, at least 2 keyboards, sometimes 2 players, but usually 1 player. And then you would have 2 guitar players. Typically you'd have electric player and acoustic, sometimes 2 electrics, sometimes 2 acoustic. Bass player, which usually was direct. And then percussion. A big area of the setup was for percussion. Could be timpanis, they take a lot of room. Even if the guy just played tambourine or shakers for the whole session, he sets up all that stuff. And then at the same time as all that, most of the time I used to record a 5-piece brass section would happen. 2 trumpets, trombone, sax, sometimes baritone, usually 5-piece. So brass, rhythm section, that was a typical setup. So in one session, you would record all those guys, and you would do 3 songs in 3 hours. Of course, everything is written out, and the artist usually was there to make sure on the key was good for him. So the artist would be there, and he might overdub later, but he sometimes sang with the band. It just depends. So setting all that up and tearing all that down is what I did a lot of. That's what you do when you're starting out. Okay, so by 1971 or 2, I was first engineering, and I had my first #1 record in 1972. Lucky me, I guess.
Nice. Congratulations on that. Even though it was in 72.
Yeah, it was a song called Show and Tell by Al Wilson. And producer wrote it, Jerry Fuller. And that's how it goes sometimes. That song we had cut 2 times before with Jerry. I cut it with Johnny Mathis, because Jerry was his producer for a long time. And I cut it with Jerry as an artist. Jerry had his own artist deal with a label. And the 3rd time with Al Wilson, just that guy, man, he just vibed it just right, and it hit big. And #1, #1 means you can't escape it. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's on the hold button. It's everywhere. It's for a month you couldn't run away. You couldn't get away from that record or him. I helped him do videos at the Capitol Towers, just on and on and on. When you're that huge. So
what was that reaction like when you finally heard it on the radio? And
it was awesome. You listen to it, and it just, it's right in the what do you call it? The playlist, the regular rotation, they used to call it then. And it comes on, and you go, oh man, I did that. The other thing is that in those days, with all the session guys, a lot of them, of course, played on that. That was a slightly different crew. That record, Jerry used H.B. Barnum for the arranger. In those days, the arranger who wrote the charts out and everything for everybody to play had a lot of his own guys that he would want to play. And so he had some, HB had some guys from the inner city. I remember the drummer, his name was Harold. I don't remember his last name. He brought in his own kit and set it up.
No, yeah. I was gonna piggyback off of that. Compared to back then, sessions are a lot different now, right?
Well, yeah, because the technology and budgeting and so many things have changed, changed that process. Let's say I wanted to cut an R&B record like Show and Tell as an R&B, and I wanted to, you probably wouldn't have the horns play at the same time, which they did.
Yeah.
You probably would have a beatbox or a drum machine playing the groove, which was not. If you listen to that record, you can hear it. It starts to rush because it's exciting, But no one didn't seem to bother anybody. It sold 2 million.
I guess
probably more now. I mean, yeah.
Probably didn't rush those 2 million folks, but hey.
It's subtle. I mean, now I remember the bass player because he's the guy that told me he played bass on it and he told me it rushed.
Hey, bass players and drummers, for some reason or another, just have that. They love to sit in the pocket, and when it's off, they can get it just like that.
It's pretty exciting because when it was going down, it was pretty awesome sounding. I can see somebody getting excited and pushing it along. But well, the thing about all of it is, and what a lot of times you don't have nowadays, is that in those days you're working with people that are really good. I mean, they're making a living. Think about it. They're making a living playing guitar and they're working all the time, every day. I mean, Hal Blaine used to have he had 5 drum kits all over town because he was doing anywhere from 4 to 8 sessions a day.
My goodness.
Jingle dates are usually an hour. So that guy was just really good. I noticed that he and another drummer that I used to record all the time, and I'll think of his name in a minute, that got inducted Hall of Fame. They call it, as a category, it's called Sidemen. And Earl Palmer. Yeah. Earl Palmer is inducted, and Hal Blaine. And I recorded both those guys. Earl Palmer, really good. Yeah. Good too. Good guy. Good people. So yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah, big difference, right? But as a Grammy voting member, so
yes,
I mean, from all over the years, you kind of see how music is taking its shape to what it is now. How was your category list this year compared to years previous?
Well, I know one thing, even today, that if you're a standout shining star, it kind of comes out, and it's not necessarily just a popularity contest. So if you're really good, I mean, there are quirks. If you're really good, you're going to get nominated. You just have to be visible and have a vehicle, that is to say, a hit song.
Do you think it's become more of a popularity contest? Because I even remember, when Michael Jackson was sweeping, Grammys like crazy for his Thriller album.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a rarity for somebody to get and compile that many Grammys in one year. But is it more of a popularity contest now than it was? I like the substance of it back then.
Well, it's pop music. Of course you're going to be voting for, and they also have to make a TV show. So this is the other part of it. And not that they should influence, the voting should influence who they're going to have on the TV show, but you have to wonder about that.
Now, when we were together at MI working there, you were teaching studio design, right?
Yeah, it was called, I took over the class. It was called Studio Design, and I rewrote it and called it Project Studio Design, mainly to, there were a lot of kids were coming in thinking that they were going to learn how to professionally design a studio. And they would complain, wait a minute, because some, as you know, some of the students coming to MI already had their bachelor's in
Correct.
another
Yeah.
country, some even a master's, and some very math oriented. And they would sign up for a class that said studio design, and they go, oh, right, I can learn how to design a professional recording studio. And the class, when it was called studio design, was nothing like that.
Oh my God. I never mind. I'm not going to get into that. But because you rewrote the class, you brought a lot of good insight. You mind like sharing some insight with me and some of my listeners here? Like for instance, most don't even know what that wooden contraption behind you is.
Oh, on the wall,
Yeah.
those?
Yes.
Those are made by Orlex. They're diffusers. And the reason why they're back there is because essentially I don't have another wall to put them on. But normally, a diffuser, unlike a hard blank surface like a floor, wall, or ceiling, like a plaster,
Mhm.
a diffuser has all multiple angles of reflection hitting that thing. So the same sound hitting one of those is going to reflect the sound kind of in a random, diffusive, all different directions, and less like a conventional hard surface, which tends to be, okay, angle of incidence, angle of reflection, you know, if this is the wall, oops, if this is the wall and this is the sound, if the sound, think of it like a flashlight beam, and this is a mirror. And you know, when it hits that, it's the angle of incident, angle of reflection. It's not really like that, but you can think of it that way. A mirror, flashlight beam, angle of incidence equals to the angle of reflection. So if that were the analogy is, if you take the flashlight beam, and if that's a sound wave, if it hits that diffuser, it's going to be scattered in all different directions, hopefully kind of random as so.
And
I
that
have them on the ceiling that you can't see here, not that kind, a different one.
Mhm. And that basically helps to break up the energy of the sound so it doesn't get back into the listening position.
Right, reflections, and that's going to be pretty high frequency too.
Now, how do you control low energy, especially for like now everybody is trying to mix at home?
Okay, well, first of all, you have to separate and define what your problem is. If you're talking about sound isolation, or are you talking about inside the room, the sound inside the room?
Mhm.
Completely two different subjects. So with sound isolation, to stop bass frequency, low frequencies, there's only one way around it, and it's with mass construction, the way something is built. So if you have an apartment, an existing structure, and somebody below you or above you is playing loud music with lots of bass, there's not a heck of a lot you can do except move. If you can get him, maybe you can get him to, or her, or whatever who's up bothering you, to move to another room, but low frequencies are, I mean, they just travel right through everything. It takes solid, unmoving mass. Whatever you're listening on, speakers in the room you're in or headphones, the first thing you need to do is kind of figure out and know, it's like a musical instrument, know that when you do this, it's this result. And when you take it out of your room, it's going to be a certain result.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you have, you can have the flattest room, spectrally perfect. You could spend a fortune on headphones. Those are the lower end ones for that company. They're about $1,200, but that's the lower. Actually, I reviewed the new pair they have is $400, is their cheapest pair now. And it's also same technology, but anyway, you still have to learn what you're hearing on that and how it is in the real world. So when you hear a lot of bass on your speakers, and is that reality is what I guess I'm getting at. Is that going to translate outside of your room? Because maybe you have to have a lot of bass on your speakers for it to transfer. So these are all relative terms. Is it really bright in your room? Well, maybe it has to be to translate out of your room. So what you need to do is learn what your room, what your headphones and all of that is doing to the sound as it is conveyed outside your room, no matter what you get. So throwing more money at a problem like, oh, I'm going to buy better headphones. I'm going to buy better speakers. I'm going to get acoustic treatments in my room and do the whole thing. Sure. All it does is make your job easier, it's better tools. But you still have to understand what is happening, how it translates. And that's going to happen no matter what you do.
Coffee or tea guy?
Coffee.
Coffee. What's the best cup of coffee you ever had?
A hot one.
Is I got a little nugget on you, and I think I showed this to you while you was at MI. You were in a famous movie.
Oh, God.
I mean, come on. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a famous movie. It had a small little part. You mind telling my audience about that?
How that happened?
Yeah.
Well, it's straight up nepotism in a way. I was at the time I was dating a girl who was Steven Spielberg, actually Frank Marshall's secretary, production secretary, worked on the lot in the office, Steven Spielberg and Frank. And Lucasfilm used to have a building here right by on Lancashire, right by the freeway. And she worked there for a while. It was they converted what used to be a chicken egg processing plant. And it was called the Egg Company. They named it. It was a really nice building. I don't know what happened to that. It was all brick, beautiful. And George Lucas came in there and she worked there. And that's very convenient to me in North Hollywood. And she lived with me for about 3 years here. And she kept coming home. They were working on Poltergeist was one movie she worked on, and E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and she would come home with the fedora. Indiana Jones maybe wore the fedora and the whip because they were paranoid that somebody was going to steal that on their own location. And anyway, she kept calling from there, and I was taking German at the time. Coincidentally, I was taking German classes. She kept calling up, how do you say this in German? And they want to know how you say this because they were kind of coming up with a script, as you remember the story. And I said, well, they wanted to know how do you say this in German, or what's the correct? And I would tell them, I said, well, look, let me check with my teacher. I don't want to give you some bogus information. And I would check, yeah, this is how you do it. So finally, after all this back and forth, they said, why don't you just be in the movie? And I said, what? So I got cast as a Nazi, of course. And
the whole German roots, right?
And I had the SS uniform. It was a pretty cool uniform, actually. I don't know if it was a real, actual SS, but it was that look. And I said, okay, great. Okay, we're going to call you. It's a location shoot. Be somewhere. It's early in the morning, and we go down. I think it was a Saturday, and we went down to Long Beach, where there is a World War II American submarine that is moored. It's sitting in the water in the back harbor somewhere, and it's available for rent for music shoots. It's like 1500 a day lockout, somebody said. Remember the lockout term?
Oh,
Lockout?
wow.
And you could, they provided a boat to get you there and a boat to get you back to the dock. Anyway, so we go down there and we're on this freaking submarine. And believe me, if you have no idea, you've seen movies and all that, you have no idea about anything about submarines till you're on one down in.
Mhm.
So I have pictures of me by the torpedo tubes and so, yeah, so I'm in this movie and I was supposed to just be background shot. The captain was this guy who was an accountant on the Culver City movie lot, but he was a tall, blonde, Aryan, big guy, Aryan looking dude, you know.
Right.
So they had him in a white turtleneck and the hat, the captain's hat. And so in comes Steven Spielberg. And the guy with the Panavision camera was set up, it was on the floor. Like, in other words, it was looking up.
Mm-hmm.
And Steven made up all the lines on the spot. He just came in there and he says, okay, I'm standing next to the captain and just standing there. That's all I had to do. And he said, he told the captain, he says, okay, when I say action, I want you to point to your mate, one of the other sailors, and do this or something. And so the Panavision guy goes, okay, we got speed. And Steven goes, action. And the guy totally freaked out. He like turned into this nervous, you know, Steven goes, cut. And try to console him. And I'm standing there and it was nothing really. And so he says, okay, take two. You got it? What we're going to do? He goes, yeah, I'm good. So action. Same thing. You couldn't speak or anything. It was like, all he had to do was turn and do something. So gives him one more time. And the guy muffed it again. And I'm right next to him, right here. And I said, I'm trying to chill him. I said, look, it's nothing to it, man. Just take your time, you know. So finally, Steven says, you know, he points to me, why don't you? And from then on, I was fine, you know, speak a little German. He says, when I point to you, can you say talking to U-boat? You know, I said, sure. It means dive the submarine, dive. There was, and so I got all the shots from then on. I mean, I think I'm in three shots. There's one where I have the periscope.
Mm-hmm.
And the captain is next to me and I'm looking through it and the captain's right there. And I go, it's Atlanta, you know, I see land. And that's when they were approaching that whole movie. That movie, you know, that movie is trippy stuff. And you find out how they do all that.
Hey guys, Eddie Bauer here. I like to thank my guests. I like to thank you for joining me. And please go subscribe to my YouTube channel at Eddie Bauer Music for more behind the glass content. Until next time, I'm out of here, man. Peace.